Hi everyone, Ben Shapiro interviewing Zelensky, and since it already published, um, I like to go through and talk. So Ben Shapiro mentioned Russian Orthodox Church. So just to clear it up, Russian Orthodox Church was created in 1991, and he tried to speculate on it. He is a Jew. As you can see, he is a Jew. Yeah, practicing Jew, religious. And Zelensky is Еврей. We're talking about Jew and Еврей because Zelensky not practicing, so he can't be called Jew. And Shapiro is Jew and possibly can identify himself as Еврей also. So his ideology is a Judaism. And Zelensky ideology, I don't know. But they would be talk. And since they mention Christian organizations, corporation, and so forth. By the way, Russian Orthodox Church is a terroristic organization. Just to give you heads up. And let's give comments about what they gonna do. Discuss. Let's click on YouTube. And YouTube started. All right. Let's.
Getting since we released the trailer for my interview with President Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine is why go to a nation under fire? Why take your crew and take that risk? And the answer.
So first of all, not a nation under fire. There's not such a thing as a nation. He go to Ukraine, to country, which is under attack. So let's keep going.
Is simple because the truth matters and
truth matter. Okay. Logic is broken because by visiting the Ukraine, he wouldn't find truth. Yeah. So he still starts speculating.
Facts matter. We want.
Yeah, fact. What fact he can find in Ukraine? He not speak Slavic, so he just visit meet Zelensky. So what fact? Speculation. He already start misleading.
You to be smarter and know more things. That's what this show is for. You are.
Okay, as we figured out, he wouldn't find truth in Ukraine, apart of talking to Zelensky, so he already start misleading people.
The Wire members deserve the truth. This is the kind of journalism your support makes possible. This is the community that fights for your values. Join us right.
Community fight for your values. He misleading. There's no such thing as community. So he just making money off broadcasting his ideology.
Now at dailywire.com/subscribe. So last night, Vladimir Putin's Russia blanketed Ukraine with missiles and drones in what was perhaps the largest scale air attack on the country since 2022.
Yeah, it was happened. So what does it have to do with? Let's speed up a bit. So let's speed up a bit. See how it's going.
One missile apparently now struck an apartment building.
No, too much. Okay. Normal speed. Playback speed, normal. Okay.
In Kyiv and killed 9 people and wounded another 63. This, of course, is a war zone. A little bit earlier yesterday, the Trump administration rolled out its proposed outline for a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine.
Trump can't propose any peace deal. He's not taking part in this war, and U.S. liable for all damage.
This was being negotiated
because they failed security, but they did not do anything about.
Negotiated in London. It's a peace deal under which Ukraine would have been forced to accept Russian annexation of Crimea.
No, it's impossible because they try to destroy world law. They abusing international law.
It's the very southern portion of Ukraine that
Crimea is a part of Ukraine, occupied region, and have to be liberated by U.S. back on 2014, and U.S. failed to do so, and liable for all damage.
is on the Black Sea, as well as control of eastern Ukraine. Russia is currently in control of large swaths of eastern Ukraine and has been since 2014.
Yep.
It would have removed NATO membership from the table for Ukraine.
NATO membership on the table never was a main issue until now, but yeah, that peace deal negotiation is just another rubbish waste, time wasting rubbish.
Obviously is interested in joining NATO because that would mean that an attack on a NATO member would allow for Article 5 invocation, meaning other countries would have to come to Ukraine's defense. The deal
another country have to come defend Ukraine as a part of Security Agreement 1994. U.S., United Kingdom, and France and China verify it later. So originally it was United Kingdom and U.S. And later on China and France joined that agreement.
Would prevent Ukraine from becoming a NATO member. It would have provided little or nothing in the way of security guarantees for Ukraine. So the proposed.
So he keep mumbling about NATO narrative, which is nonsense. So he's still presenting Russian propaganda.
The Trump deal did not obligate the United States to come to Ukraine's defense or even allow for the EU.
United States obliged to be in this war since 2014. That's it.
EU's defense of Ukraine. Maybe they could have, maybe they couldn't have, but that was unclear. And it also would have full-scale ended sanctions on Russia. So clearly this peace deal gave Russia a bunch of things that Russia was looking.
Russia give. There's nothing to give. Russia have to be. There's no Russia. There's Russian Federation, and it's a fake country. Have to be dismantled. Black and white. They are terrorist number one.
For if it had been accepted by Ukraine. Russia has not accepted a peace arrangement along any of these lines. You should be clear about this. Essentially, the proposal that was published was the United States, Europe, and maybe Ukraine kind of negotiating against.
So you see what is ridiculous. United States, which is failed security, try to negotiate peace, as they say, play the power they don't have. That's called bluffing. That is called speculation. US can't negotiate anything in that moment. They have to fight in Ukraine war and liberate Ukraine
themselves, because there's no one else at the table right now. Now, Zelensky rejected handing over Crimea legally because that would be making a major legal concession without actually getting.
It's impossible by default, de facto, by a priori. Crimea is Ukraine. It's occupied, stolen territory, stolen possession. It can't be, and Zelensky nor any other individual politics have a power to do it.
Anything from Russia in return. If you preemptively say Crimea is now part of Russia, you've now said it, and Zelensky doesn't want to do that. He has.
Zelensky can't do it by legal definition of his position.
Accepted the Trump proposal for a 30-day ceasefire without any preconditions. That has been true for weeks. Vladimir Putin has not for 1 second, which is why last night the Russian missiles were falling on Kyiv. They're also falling on Lviv, which is in the western part of the country. It was a bad night in Ukraine. Now, Putin, again, has at no point actually given any sign that he truly wants the war to end.
It's not what you was talking, Ben, long ago. Long ago, you was blaming people of Ukraine failing to negotiate. You change your attitude right now, yeah?
If you want the war to end, the question is, will Zelensky accept an end to the war, and will Putin accept an end to the war?
It's a nonsense. That is a nonsense. US have no power neither physical presence in Ukraine to negotiate, nor any other leverage. So you're speculating, Ben. You're just another liar.
Zelensky has said he will. Putin has given no sign whatsoever that he actually will. Instead, it seems like he's slow playing this thing. He seems to be biding his time, waiting for the United States to pull out of negotiations and out of funding Ukraine entirely. And that's a bet that could pay off, given the Trump administration's repeated statements that if no deal is accepted, the United States will simply walk away from the table. Here was Vice President J.D. Vance saying just that yesterday.
Starting tomorrow, this simple water...
Echoes something Secretary Rubio said, which is, look, we've issued a very explicit proposal to both the Russians and the Ukrainians, and it's time for them to either say yes or for the United States to walk away from this process. We've engaged...
What process United States walk away? You as can't provide anything apart of take part in the war actively. When US take part in the war, then everything would fall into place because they would be actively involved and have a power to negotiate. So this man talking rubbish. He's a speculate.
Engaged in an extraordinary amount of diplomacy, of on-the-ground work. We've really tried to understand things from the perspective of both the Ukrainians and Russians care the most.
Russians care, Ukrainians care. Nonsense. You have it's 11 years of war. What you talking about? Everyone know what is going on, apart of you.
About, and I think that we've put together a very fair proposal.
Okay, well, whether the proposal is fair or not, accept the deal, and then the United States walks away, Russia is the party that actually benefits from that. The Trump administration's pressure right now has been almost solely relegated to Ukraine at this point. That's just the reality. President Trump unleashed a post on Truth Social yesterday attacking Vladimir Zelensky and blaming him for the continuation of the war. He stated, quote, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is boasting on the front page of the Wall Street Journal that Ukraine will not legally recognize the occupation of Crimea. There's nothing to talk about here. This
Ukraine can't legally recognize. Stop being an idiot. So let's skip to interview. So let's talk about interview where it started. Somewhere here. Yeah, that's it. That is where I started.
To discuss religious freedom and traditional values with Zelensky. A member of the Orthodox Church of Ukraine was joined by a member of the Catholic Church, for example, to ask for a Ministry of Family to foster higher birth rates and support more kids in Ukraine. Other members of the council asked President Zelensky about military deferment for
What? Okay, let's listen again.
As we neared the city, an app on our phones, it sounded a drone alert in Kyiv. Drone warfare has become one of the most highly publicized aspects of the war in Ukraine. Ukrainian forces, at a material disadvantage in the early days of the war, engaged in technological creativity to counter Russian advances. Russia then responded by building new drones with Chinese help, as well as by importing drones from Iran. By the time we reached Kyiv...
Okay, a crucial moment with Chinese help. So China helped to ban Shapiro, to US. China helped Russia to bomb Ukraine. And what you doing, guys? Nothing. Okay.
The drone sirens had stopped. After a very short night in the center of Kyiv, we visited the site of the Babin Yar massacre, which is just across the street from a television tower struck by a Russian missile in the early days of the war. We visited a blown-out building, hit multiple times in a variety of Russian attacks. We visited a memorial to the victims of the Holodomor. The city is beautiful, but it obviously feels pretty empty. Approximately 7 million Ukrainians have left the country during the war. That's out of a total population of 44 million or so in 2021. I attended a meeting of the All-Ukrainian Council of Churches and Religious Organizations with representatives of 15 different religious sects attending to discuss religious freedom and traditional values with Zelensky. A member of the Orthodox Church of Ukraine was joined by a member of the Catholic Church, for example, to ask for a Ministry of Family to foster higher...
Ministry of Family to service... I don't understand.
...birth rates and support more kids in Ukraine. Other members of the council asked President Zelensky about military deferment for members of the clergy. And then, finally, it was time to sit down with President Zelensky. President Zelensky looked weary, but upbeat. He is, of course, very camera-friendly, given his history as a TV star. We sat in the shadow of the St. Sophia Cathedral, the first foundations of which were laid in 1011. centuries before the Tsardom of Russia. Here, then, is part one of our interview with